I gotta change who I am. You do. Because the person you are, the tools that are in your toolkit, you're not equipped with the kind of things, the kind of tools, you get what I'm saying, that are necessary for you to achieve a lot of the things that you want in life, whether it's... So you want to improve your life, but you're just like, I don't know where to start. Like, I want to improve my life. I want to start doing better. I want to start being better, but I really just don't know where to start. But this video is for you. And we're going to get right into it. So first, if you don't know specifically where you want to improve your life, start with areas, and they could be very abstract areas. So that means financially, mentally, physically, spiritually. You can search up some more areas if you like to, areas in which I would want to improve my life on Google or anything like that. But sometimes what messes people up is they start too specific. Like, they feel like they need a specific thing they need to change in their life. And I definitely recommend to start out more so abstract with just ideas of things, or like a gist of something, to figure out, you know, what direction do you want to start heading in. Second, I definitely would recommend to figure out what you don't want in that area, right? Because I think a lot of times we focus too heavily on what we do want. And so it's easy for us to not get that thing, but then convince ourselves, oh, I'm trying to get this thing, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to do that, and then not really do nothing, for the simple fact that we never had built a standard for ourselves as far as what we don't want to go through, even if it's somewhere, you know, you want to live. Like, it's so easy for people to be like, oh, I don't know where I want to live. I don't know where I want to live. And it's like, okay, well, if you start where you don't want to live, we can cross out areas, and now it's a smaller box to get from. You get what I'm saying? If you don't figure out what you don't want in certain areas, then I feel like it makes it that much harder to figure out what you do want. Like, I feel like that's one of the things that people need to take into consideration. And figuring out what you don't want also means you have to try things. I feel like individuals don't necessarily think they have to try things. I think a lot of times people think they just have to think about things. Like, I don't think I like this. Or even sometimes we convince ourselves that we don't like something, but then we've never actually tried that thing. Maybe someone we know didn't like it, or maybe, you know, we heard something bad about it, or maybe we just don't think that's us, right? We just don't think, I'm not that girl, I'm not that guy, I don't do that, I don't do this. You don't know what you don't know. So it's very imperative for you to try things in these areas. Like I said, whether it's financially, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, try different things. If you're trying to get your body together, do not convince yourself, oh, you only have to go to the gym. Look into bar, look into Pilates, look into yoga. If you're trying to make money, do not convince yourself that, oh, I have to start $1 million business. Hey, maybe you want to write a book, or maybe you want to do something that's specifically inside your field. It is a 9-to-5, and you possibly could make $1 million from it, or working there, or, you get what I'm saying, just being that valuable in that field. But you're convincing yourself that, you know, you have to get something, you have to figure out what you don't want, and you figure out what you don't want by experiencing things. And then another segue into that is figuring out what causes what you don't want. That's a very imperative thing, because a lot of times we're blocking ourselves. So it's hard for you even to go into the right direction of getting what you want, because you're being held back by the things that you don't want. For example, if you tell yourself, hey, I'm trying to lose weight, right? Before you even start meal prepping, before you even go to the gym, before you even do it, stop eating them cookies. Stop eating them cookies late night before you go to sleep. Like, you first have to figure out what causes what you don't want. If you're telling yourself, hey, you know, I want to have a big house in so-and-so city, right? And you just figure out how much it costs, or whatever the case may be. Well, you probably don't need to get a new car every single time you pay off your car if you told yourself you want a new house. If you get what I'm saying, like, there's this thing where it's like a lot of times the things that we're doing actually are holding us back from getting to our goals, and we're convincing ourselves that we're not enough. We're convincing ourselves that it's too hard. We're convincing ourselves all of these things, but it's really because you haven't figured out what's gonna cause you, what are things that are gonna happen that are gonna cause you not to get the things that you want. But I feel like that also goes into experiencing things and trying things. You don't know what you don't know, like I said. So if you don't know something, then you wouldn't not know what causes it not to happen, if that makes any sense. Like, for example, when you're young, right, and you get your first job, or you're not paying bills or something like that, you don't know, like, hey, I can't go out with my friends every time I want to, or I can't buy, you know, designer items or big purchases whenever I want to, because I have to pay my bills, if that makes any sense. So what causes you not to get to that goal of paying your bills? Spending random money on random things, like kids do. You give a kid $50 and they will spend it on like the To us it's the dumbest, but to them it's like the best thing in the world for a week. Because they don't have their responsibility of having to pay bills and all these other things. And it's like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So I definitely would say try things, experience things, and then figure out exactly like what will cause you not to get to your goal, and i.e. not get to the life that you want. And I want you to figure out what kind of person do you have to become good at something, right? What kind of person do you have to transform into, rebrand into? I think it's very imperative to realize and appreciate that you've gotten yourself thus far. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, round of applause, because life is hard. Like, life is hard, okay? Appreciate where you've gotten yourself, but realize you're not going to open new doors with old keys. So you're going to have to change yourself. You're going to have to essentially rebrand yourself. But before you do that, it's important for you to figure out what kind of person do you have to become good at something, or to i.e. make something a habit for you. So first, like I said in the beginning, we started out with, you know, the abstract ideas of things, right? And then you get a little bit specific because you figure out what you don't want. So then that gives you a smaller box or a smaller, you know, idea of what you do want. And then you experience things and you go through things, whatever the case may be. And then you go into this phase of, okay, what are some of the things I'm going to have to take out of my life? What are some of the things I'm going to have to bring into my life, right? Kind of what is the kind of person I'm going to have to become? Because obviously the person that you are is not the kind of person that's going to achieve those goals. And you have to realize that and realize that and respect that. I feel like what sometimes messes us up is like we have this idea of like, I don't want to be fake, or I don't want to change, or I've been like this my entire life. Yeah, and that's got you where you are right now. And like I said, appreciate where you are. Don't look down on like, oh, I hate my life. But at the same time, if you want to grow, if you want to change, which you probably want to do because you came to this video, you have to realize you can't be the same person you are. And I feel like for me, that was one of the hardest things. And I'm currently still going through that, like changing. But I think that was one of the hardest things because it's like, I never consider myself to be fake. I never consider myself to be like, well, I got to change who I am. You do. Because the person you are, the tools that are in your toolkit, you're not equipped with the kind of things, the kind of tools, you get what I'm saying, that are necessary for you to achieve a lot of the things that you want in life, whether it's mentally, physically, financially. So I think it's very imperative to figure out the kind of person that you're going to have to become. And so when you're doing things, ask yourself, are you being that person, right? So if you're going out to dinner and you know you're trying to lose weight, what would a person that's trying to lose weight eat? If that makes any sense. And it's not saying necessarily always restrict yourself, like, oh, every time I go I have to get a salad, every time I go. But at the same time, maybe you don't need the 12-ounce steak with the two lobster tails and the overly stuffed mashed potatoes with 2 margarita. Like, that's probably not what you should do, because you want to become that kind of person that does that automatically. So in the beginning, when you're doing things to get to your goal, it's very imperative that you ask yourself, what would that person do, right? What would a person who's trying to save money do? What would a person who's trying to open a business do? What would a person that kind of to navigate you, because you're not that person yet, and that's okay, but try to think like that person. And then the final thing I kind of want to end on is no one really gets life. Like, no one has mastered life. No one gets life. And I feel like that's one thing that when you're going through things, you have this idea that these billionaires, these millionaires, these essentially rich, wealthy, high value, whatever individuals, you feel like there's something about them that's not in me. They have it figured out. They have a cheat code. They have a da-da-da. Don't get me wrong, to a certain extent, especially if you come from a wealthy family, yes, there are things that they do tell you, you know, when it comes to certain things. But I think it's also important that we acknowledge the fact that no one has life figured out. Like, no matter how much money you got, no matter how much whatever, and not just no one has life all figured out. Stop trying to have life figured out completely, because it makes it not life anymore. Like, think about it. In the movies think about those movies, I can't even think of the name of one, but like, I don't know if you've seen one before where the character wakes up and experiences the same day every day. That's how life would be if you have life figured out. Like, you would know everything. You would know what's gonna happen. You're not gonna start a business and be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh, how is this gonna do? You're not gonna apply to that job and be like, and once you get it, be like, yes, I got that job. You're not gonna graduate and be like, oh, I'm just so happy I graduated. You're not gonna be able to really feel things and experience things if you already knew you were gonna get it. If you already knew you were going to get something and you're not as happy, that's like your boyfriend telling you, you know, hey, in 2 years, on January 2nd, 2026, I'm going to marry you at so-and-so restaurant and we gonna eat so-and-so and I'm gonna invite your mom. January 2nd come, you at the restaurant there, you just waiting for it. Like, so when he gonna do it? When he gonna do it? When he gonna do it? You lose that excitement, contrary to somebody pop out a ring and be like, will you marry me? You like, oh my gosh. That was so dramatic. I'm sorry, y'all. That was actually cringy. But anyways, y'all get what I'm saying. Like, you don't appreciate the fact that you don't have life figured out. And appreciate, like I said before, where you are now. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that, like, you're living in your blessings. Like, you're living in your dreams. You're living in your cries. You're living in all that. And I feel like when you're in it, you don't realize. Like, even me, the apartment that I have now, I'll never forget when I first got my first apartment in 2020. I was talking to one of my friends because another one of my friends had got an apartment and she was actually living here. And we're, you know, talking friends like, oh, where you living? Where you living? We're trying to, like, you know, share places together, try to figure out where we're going to live. And, you know, we're friends. We're going to live by each other. And then she sent me this place. And I remember I was like, she was like, oh, I'm moving here. You should move here too. I said, girl, I cannot afford to live. Girl, what? I looked at the price. I'm like, girl, I cannot afford to live there. Like, no, like, girl, that don't even, like, I was like, I'm like, the fact that you would even ask me to live here was like, what? I say that to say, I've been living here now for going on 1 year and I'm about to renew my lease. And now that I live here, it's normal to me. Like, I don't really see it the same way I saw it when I was from the outside. And I feel like that happens with a lot of individuals. Even when I got my car, right? I got my first car, I was so happy. And then eventually I got to the point, and I still have it, but eventually I got to the point where I was like, I want a new car, I want a new car, I want a new car. And it's like, why do you want a new car? Your car drives perfectly fine. Your car is perfectly fine. Like, what do you need a new car for? But it was that idea of, like, when I really, really wanted something and then you finally get it, like, it becomes normal to you. And so I feel like that's kind of what success is in life. Like, we look at individuals who have success, whether it's mentally, physically, financially, all these things, or what we perceive as success, right? Because nowadays you really don't know the truth with social media. And we look down upon ourselves in our situation. And it's like, I've said it before in a previous video, the fact that you're even watching this video, you're doing better than a very large percent of the world. Not just your state, not just your country, the world. It's millions of individuals that will never eat. Like, there's so many people who never even see a device in their entire life. Never see it. You get what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I've just been thinking about that lately because I've also been on this journey of, like, what do I want to do with my life and where do I want to go with my life? And sometimes I feel like I should know, right? I'm a full-time content creator, and now a lot of people want to be content creators and stuff like that, and people always ask me about it, and sometimes I feel like a letdown because I feel like my replies aren't sufficient enough as far as, like, okay, so, you know, what's this and what's that and da-da-da. Like, I'm still navigating. There's times where I'm just like, do I really want to do content creation for my entire life? Or, like, what is it going to look like for me in 10 years? And I don't know. But there's a lot of individuals that probably wish they were in my position. Like, I wish I could be a full-time content creator. I wish. And so they have this perception of individuals who are full-time content creators or doing something that they want to do. Like, oh, they must have it all figured out. And it's like, little do you know, I'm hanging on by a thread. I mean, if you watch my YouTube videos, you keep up with me, you know, I be going through it. I really be going through it. But there's this perception, there's this halo effect that we have on individuals that have certain things that we want in life. And I think it's all about what direction is your life going into, right? Building standards for yourself of things that you're not going to allow, figuring out the type of individual that you have to become, figuring out the type of habits that you have to implement. But it really starts with being abstract. And then you zoom in. I feel like sometimes people are too specific, especially now with social media. People see people making a whole bunch of money from drop shipping. People see people making a whole bunch of money from lashes or whatever, content creation. Then they convince themselves they want to do that thing. Whole time, that's not you. You don't want to do that. But you see people making money doing that thing and you want to make money, so you convince yourself you want to do that thing. You try it, you don't like it. Now you convince yourself that you're a failure because you're like, why does it click for them but not for me? But the whole time that wasn't for you. So you keep trying to go at something specific when you need to be more abstract. You want to make more money. Okay, so you want to make more money. Let's start with things you can try to make more money. Let's start with focusing on you. Like, one thing about me, I knew I wanted to get into, like, content creation or communication or something like that because I'm a talker. I've always been a talker. I've always been that girl in school that always got, like, talked too much on her report card. You know, she's a good student, but she talks too much, distracting other students. That was me. So when it came to figuring out what I wanted to do as far as, you know, work and everything like that, I started first with just, like, a very, like, just a bubble. Like, what do you like to do? Talking. I love talking. Okay, so let's talk about things with talking. What can you do for talking or like speaking or writing? There's journalism, there's content creation, there's you know, different fields inside of communications. Like there's things that some individuals like to do, and I feel like sometimes you get older and you get to work and things like that, you kind of lose yourself and you just get intertwined into other people's goals. But I feel like it's important to figure out, like, what do you want to do and how best does that serve you? Even when it comes to working out, like I'm starting to learn, I don't really think I like the gym anymore. Like weights and stuff like that, I don't really like how it's making my body look. So I think I might primarily focus on just doing like bar and Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. And maybe that will give me more of a physique that I'm kind of trying to go for. I don't know, I just don't really like it. But there's people who, you know, in the gym every single day, and they'll tell you, if you want to get this body, you want to get that body, go to the gym, da, da, da. But some people, that's just not for them. So if I was going to the gym every single day and I'm getting frustrated because I'm not getting the results that the gym girlies are getting, it's just like running into a wall. And I'm trying to figure out, why is my life not improving? Why is my life not getting better? And one thing I want you guys to realize, sometimes it's not getting better because you're holding yourself back with these two specific types of expectations that don't fit you, don't fit your life, don't make sense for you. So for a lot of people, it's not even that you don't necessarily have any goals for yourself. It's the goals that you have for yourself are way too specific on somebody else's life. You're trying to hone in on that girl on social media, that guy on social media, how they got their money, and then you just trying to go backwards from that and figure out how they did what they did. You could do the same exact thing they do and not get the same results. Trust me, you can. So I think it's very imperative to start abstract, start with you, start with things you like to do, try things out, figure out things you have to take away, figure out things you have to put into, and morph yourself mentally, physically, and all these other ways, and trying to figure out, how can I become that kind of individual that achieves that thing? How can I become that kind of individual that does things on a regular, that helps them achieve those kind of things, that things like this aren't even really goals for them like that? Because it's like, that's what they do on a regular. You get what I'm saying? It's like going to the gym. There's some individuals that eat healthy, they go to the gym. So a byproduct of doing that is, yes, they have a nice body, but they got that body because they work out and go to the gym, if that makes any sense. Like they're that kind of person that does that anyway. It's just a benefit of that is being able to get a nice body. So it's like, you want to become that kind of individual that you do these things regularly. You know, invest in yourself mentally, physically, financially, all these other things, so much so that the byproduct of it is you making more money. The byproduct of it is you getting your dream body. The byproduct is you connect, you get what I'm saying? Doing these things because it just so happened that you're doing the right things. You're doing the things that the individuals that achieve these things already do on a daily basis. So I don't know. That's just my idea of it. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that you learned something from it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're comfortable enough, don't, you know, hesitate to comment. What are some areas in your life that you feel like you want to improve on, right? In the abstract areas. Abstract, I feel like it's great. And then once you get abstract, zooming in as small as possible to figure out what you specifically want. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great one.